Welcome back to the Daily Grind, where gamers find grace, your weekly checkpoint to rest, reflect, and respawn. I'm Shaun McAfee, your wonderful, blessed host, and tonight we've got a treat. Dan Lower, or maybe he's German and it's Dan Lover. I really don't know. He'll tell us. You know him as Kkarios on Discord, and he joins us. He's an indie Metroidvania maker, which I can't wait to hear about, obsessive about jump arcs, and stalwart of Vespers and Compline, who sings in the choir in downtown Portland, or around Portland, apparently. Dan shipped about 8 small Metroidvanias since 2020, which is just impressive. A lot of people say, hey, Shaun, how do you write all those books? Well, I don't know how some of these people get their hobbies done, so can't wait to hear about that and how he's so productive. Must be a passion project. And he's earned internet infamy with Ruin Diver 3 Turbo Silver Edition, which was in 2011. Or so. He might correct me on some of these details. So expect hot takes on movement design and maybe a hymn or two. So tonight we're going to talk about craft, cult classics. Of course, we're going to have a poll, which one you enjoy more, Metroid or Castlevania. We'll see, because we're going to blend those two, obviously, and how he makes those games, and we'll learn all about that. So I want to warm up the chat just a little bit. If you could, tell me your favorite Metroidvania and one mechanic you'd like nerfed forever. I'll read the best takes and start. Okay, but before we get to that, I want to let you know what else we have in mind. Of course, we've got a great spiritual patch notes and checkpoint reflection for you. We'll fire up our guest and ask him all about how to make games. And then after the show, we're actually going to play one of his games. It's called Missing Cats. I spent 1 minute on it earlier, and I said, I don't want to go any further because I don't want to spoil this. It was that fun and that cute, especially hearing these cats cry. I wish that he would call me and let me be the voice behind some of these, the voice acting and whatnot. Anyways, Boss Battle is going to test his Metroidvania knowledge on the development side. So we're going to have a lot of interesting phraseology and lingo that he should know. We're going to test it. And you'll be able to help him win with your bits and your subs, so save your money there. And then Poll Party. We've got a wonderful little Would You Rather game edition, and our developer here is going to tell us how it is based on your vote, okay? So don't go anywhere. We're going to have a bunch of fun with that. But first, let's go to spiritual patch notes. All right, time for spiritual patch notes, where we patch up the soul and level up. Tonight's virtue is craftsmanship. Developers, like our Kkarios, know the difference between a sloppy tile set and a lovingly tuned-up jump arc. Saints know the difference between rote prayer and a prayerful heart. Craftsmanship asks us to care for the small things, because from small things form great habits, and habits, if they're great, will form holiness. Think of our Benedictine brothers. They're sculpting their holy hours. They're practicing their liturgy for chanting the divine office. Their little attention to detail, or let's say their great attention to the little details, the right notes or the right pause, really accelerates the virtue of their worship and how it's expressed, how it's heard, how it feels when you're doing it. And it elevates the heart to God and helps the mind ascent to the divine as well. So for developers, one little pixel correction can be the same way. That can change an entire boss fight. And for Christians, one extra minute of genuine silence in front of a crucifix, or maybe in a holy hour, could really start to change your life. So think about that, the crafting your spiritual life, craftsmanship. So as we talk with Dan, let's keep our eyes and ears tuned to how the Holy Spirit prompts us to do those little labors, tuning, testing, and praying, and being shapeable by the Holy Spirit to be beautiful. That is your patch notes for this week. Let's get to checkpoint reflection. All right, so before I start checkpoint reflection, I promised you I'd read a couple of these, and I'm reading my favorite from K-Max. He says, Metroid Fusion. It's funny that I said pick a Metroidvania and he just picks Metroid. It's not the fan favorite, but I like the setting and the world buildup in Metroid. It did Samus with a proper voice, a voice proper. Okay, not bad. Beer Fox, hey, welcome, Beer Fox. Don't see you here too often, but I love you, man. My favorite Metroidvania is Zelda. Well, that's interesting. Okay, I'm interested to hear your thoughts one day on what makes Zelda a Metroidvania. I believe that maybe you could argue that Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, I think you could call that a Metroidvania. Now, Beer Fox might not have been expecting me to say that, but I think that would qualify. And I will give I will give him my definition of a Metroidvania, and I'll check it against his. So be prepared for that, Dan. Okay, your checkpoint reflection. Breathe with me, please. If you've ever fixed an invisible collider for 3 hours and then finally felt that click when the player lands true, maybe it's an extra pixel on a platform like we mentioned earlier. Maybe it's a false platform. And if you haven't seen my video on YouTube of me playing Kid Dracula, go back on YouTube a couple weeks and you'll see it there. That game is full of those exact types of little, I don't know if I want to call it glitches, but let's say pixel errors that make it really difficult. So when those are fixed by a game dev, they know or you feel it whenever you're grinding through it, you know the joy of working with a work well done. That joy is a sacramental kind of delight, if you know what I mean. The world becomes more whole within the game, or maybe within your conscience, because you're not going to rage quit, because you cared to put the effort in. Today's short prayer is a little bit like this. Let's pray it together. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, teach us to love the craft of our days. Make our small labors signs of your greater work. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, let's circle back to the patch notes. Craftsmanship is not flashy, but it's faithful, right? Keep that in front of your head, and it'll make Dan's developer stories hit even harder. Now, that's that. Let's get to co-op mode and meet Dan. All right, welcome to co-op mode, where we talk about a faithful guest, or we talk with them anyways. I've made that mess up twice tonight. So this guy, his name is Dan, Kkarios lower. And Dan, it's great to have you. I don't actually have your bio pulled up. So Dan, why don't you tell me, I usually start out by saying, hey Dan, what did I miss? But why don't you tell us about yourself and what you do and what makes you so great?
Oh goodness, where did I put that? I put it in the thing with the people, and by that I mean the chat for your for this thing.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Got it. Okay. I'm gonna read this in third person because I'm weird like that.
Okay, go for it.
Dan Kkarios Lauer is a small-time amateur game developer who has made approximately 8 small Metroidvanias from 2020 onward and has very good opinions about jump arcs and genre definitions. He also likes doing Vespers in Compline. Should have been a period there. And singing with the choir at his church in Portland. His most internet famous game is probably Ruin Diver 3 Turbo Silver Edition from 2011.
Yeah, okay, sounds familiar. Sounds like almost exactly what I wrote for myself to say in the opening. So good, we nailed it. What did we miss? Are you married? Do you have kids?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Okay, man, let's jump right in. So, game making, how did you get into it? And tell us about, well, I'll go from there. How did you get into it?
Okay, so back in 1991, a creator named Tim Sweeney, who we now know as the CEO of Epic Games, made a thing called ZZT.
Wow.
And ZZT was a shareware game, if anybody knows. As Jeff Vogel was saying, it was the absolutely bananas idea that you would just put a demo out and encourage everybody to share it, and it would be a big demo.
Right.
So sometimes it would be like there were 3 games and the first game was just free, and you could share it, and you would pay for the other 2 if you liked the first one.
Okay.
Now, ZZT's shareware included an editor. So a lot of people in that era growing up in that time period or later later on would sort of cut their game dev teeth on making these very small worlds, because everything that Sweeney built in the registered worlds you could do yourself with the editor.
Okay.
And even since that time, people have not so much ZZC. Eventually, they reconstructed the source code. That's a different story that doesn't need to be told right here, right now. It was really cool, but it's not for right now. Um, and but like editors would be external. And one thing that's kind of a virtue of it in a way is that Sweeney wasn't thinking too hard about sanity constraints.
Right.
So if you hand ZZC something that is not absolutely broken for data, it will just like, okay, and then it just plays by its own rules with whatever you handed it, which is really cool when you're looking at the sort of revival recently that it's had with people coming back and making new games post 2020, especially. And making things with it that it really was never intended to do.
Okay.
And to be clear, this is an old game creation system where the board limit is 20 kilobytes approximately.
Wow.
So we're not talking about a big game that you're making.
Right.
But it is a kind of a cool thing. Anyway, I cut my teeth with ZZT and also on a different program that was released later on called Megazoots.
Megazoots.
Yeah, Megazeux is how it's spelled, and I did a lot of stuff with all of those. They both had competitions that would run sort of like what you would call a game jam now. They were called the Day of Zooks and the 24 Hours of ZZT competition. So I've made a lot of that. K-Max says Bubbles wins, Sean, which is Bubbles is a ZZC game, or maybe a ZZC adjacent game. It's a lightly tweaked version of the executable, lightly tweaked version of the game that's running it, but it also runs in vanilla. And
my
Max
favorite flavor of ice cream.
Yes, it is. Bubbles is not a game that I would necessarily say to stream, and I'm very pleased that Max streamed it, but it is a puzzle game and it is brutally difficult.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, I cut my teeth on those programs, and I kind of was off and on with doing game dev stuff. And at a certain point, due to the pandemic, some stuff happened, right? And among other things, one of the ZZC games I made was a birthday game for my game dev friend Zephyr, and I started messing with some of the mechanics of ZZT and doing things with, like I mentioned, the aforementioned data, doing things that it's not supposed to, sort of things. And I kind of made a game sort of to delight and troll him at the same time that had been inspired by some things that people realized you could do. And this was after sort of I'd started to do a little bit of my revival stuff. Like I'd done my big like proc gen procedural generation thing in 2019. And in 2020 is when I did this troll thing. It's also when I made a game initially called Big Beast in the Maze.
Okay.
Which is a different side of me as far as all that goes. Anyway, this became a precursor to something called Oktoberfest, which my friend Stale Meme and I ran for a few years before passing it off to somebody else. We don't really impose a lot of our old rules on everybody else. It's kind of the same general spirit. The only real rule that we had at the time was basically that you not submit anything NSFW, by which in this case clearly does not refer to profanity based on the entries that were already there from the start. But that was the main rule that's kind of kept on, is like, please keep the no pornographic games rule for this jam.
Okay.
And that's partly because I don't want to host a game jam that has that allowed.
Thank you for that.
I don't like that.
Thank you for that. Now my kids can watch this episode.
Yes. Well, Oktoberfest, actually, surprisingly, none of the games that I even recommended to you or put on the table today were Oktoberfest. Even Dunk Tank, which was not an Oktoberfest game. That was an unrelated game jam.
Yeah, we'll talk about Dunk Tank in a second. We'll put a link to it here in a bit.
Oh no. Okay. Well, you're gonna wonder about me if you play that game. Just fair warning.
No. It's not so bad. Okay, so let me catch us up. So you started making games by tinkering around. You kind of got lucky by knowing the right people, I would say. Those are my words, not yours. But take us to the next step. Like, how did you get into like the group that you're involved with, and I guess take the story a little bit from there.
So my current game dev compatriots are a mixture of a few people from my real life, or my quote unquote real life. It is also a lot of people from just Catholic Discord, because all of my Catholic Discords are sort of Catholic plus nerd interest here, and a lot
The
of those
only
crossover with
Discord,
gaming.
one Discord to rule them all. Just kidding.
Yeah, but like every space in this space is a little bit unique in its own way, and but almost all of them, what they have in common is they almost all have gamers in them. Um, and
Sure.
so that's one thing. Uh, let's see. And also just holdovers from ZZC and Megazeus, because a lot of those same people still like to play my games and hang out with me virtually, even though we're not doing exactly the same thing in the same systems. I mean, I have done some things in ZZC and Megazeus since 2020, but just it's not my primary focus.
Sure.
Anyway, so Oktoberfest was one thing. That was the first time I made a game in Game Maker Studio. That was a game called The Coolest.
Okay.
The Coolest is another game that I mean, again, you might have questions if you play it. But and then in that same November, December, I did my first of what's called the Metroidvania Month Jam.
Okay.
Metroidvania Month
Okay.
is a jam that a guy did because he thought he wanted more Metroidvanias to play, so he wanted to encourage people to make them, so he started hosting a jam. That was the 10th iteration, and that was the first one that I joined, and that's where Bunny Family came from, or Family Rescue Adventure, as it's actually called, but
Right.
Sean called it Bunny Family.
Yeah, the
Because
Bunny
the aliens
Family
are their
game.
bunnies.
By the way, thank you for our new follower, guys. Please put the ducks in the chat for our new follower, Feeble Bobbler. Is that one of your friends?
Yes, Feeble is a friend from Inkwells and Angels, and if you're familiar with your Catholic Discord taxonomy, they would be the fairy-obsessed literarian types, probably most associable with the Inklings yeah.
Princess Perler says the
old.
duck scared the crap out of me. No, that's fair. So that is literally Limpy's voice. Limpy is a dead duck now. I don't know if you know the history there. Okay. So Metroidvanias. Let's talk about that, because that's really where I started to kind of eye you. You were in the Discord, and then you started to tell me you make games, and I'm like, whoa, this guy's kind of blowing my mind. We got a few others in the Discord now, and I really need to have them on the show. But let me give you my definition of a Metroidvania, because I was telling my kids, they always ask every week, every Thursday, they say, who's on the show tonight? What do they do? And I'm like, dude, you guys are the coolest kids. If they would just clean their room, it'd be great. But at least they're interested in what dad's doing. So I said a Metroidvania is the merging of, for me, it's two concepts. It's number one, you're gonna not like me for this if I'm wrong, but the first concept to me is the fact that you can backtrack it all. The game requires backtracking, and other outside of the fact that you got to collect upgrades, we'll get to in a second. It is a game where you scroll left and scroll right at any point in time in the start or any point in time during the next level. Do I have that first part correct?
I would say that it's very true that a Metroidvania is a platformer where you have a theoretical option to move left from the beginning.
Yeah. Good. Okay, now the second one would be, and I think somebody had said it earlier very eloquently, is you have, in order to complete the game, hands down, you have to have upgrades, or at least that's the way it's designed. You might be able to skip certain things, you might be able to break the game a little bit, but you must get upgrades to increase your skills, and then those skills are tested in such a way, either on a boss or through different puzzles, in order to get to the end. So, as I said to my kids, it's not just run to the end and pull down the flag as quick as you can with skipping everything. You can't skip things in a Metroidvania. Do I have it correct?
I think that's more or less correct. Yeah, there's obviously sequence breaking is what the skips would usually be called.
Okay.
In a Metroidvania, but yeah, I think that's more or less correct. It's a good working definition, and I have some things that I've sort of softened on the genre. I tend to be a bit of a genre pedantist. Like I don't tend to really
Yeah.
I don't tend to be very allowance driven for like people calling things one thing that aren't that thing. If you ever talk to me about
Okay,
what a
so you
roguelike
do
is,
get
it's a similar
pedantic.
thing.
You do get pedantic about
I
that?
get pedantic, yes.
Okay.
But I also have a belief that it's going to sound kind of weird, but that it's easy to sort of talk about genres as pigeonholes and like strict categories. And I don't know if that's quite as useful to me at this point anymore. Like, I think it's useful if you want to make sure that you're marketing things honestly, right? So, like, you don't want to market things as a Metroidvania that's not, especially if it's a platformer, which is the most easily confusable thing.
Right.
But at the same time, as long as nobody feels lied to about what the thing is,
Okay.
and you're not dramatically hurting the discovery of a genre or flattening the English language in the process, which is another concern that I have with broadening genre definitions like
Yeah, we
roguelikes.
see that a lot in the
Um,
music industry, and then suddenly everything is this kind of metal. Okay, answer me this for Beer Fox. He said Zelda is a Metroidvania. What say you?
so I mentioned Metroidvania Month. That's the jam that I've done so many times, and it's responsible for so many of my sort of like mini micro Metroidvanias. I don't even call them microvanias because like they're just not even that. They're not even like 2 or 3 hours long. But that the Beer Fox is clearly spying on the debate that Discord has every time there's a game jam, because every single time someone's like, "Hey, if I make a Zelda that's top down, is this okay?" And I initially was like really resistant to that idea because for me, a Metroidvania, the jumping is important. The jumpy jumps are an important part of the equation. Thank you, Swiss. I appreciate you. He said I have a good YouTube video on genres. I do actually, but
We got to find that and put
um,
it in the chat. Not
yes,
now, not now, not now.
no, no,
I
you have
want
to
you. I
find it
want you to
later.
finish what you're saying.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I think it's more useful to think about genres as being sort of having sort of origin points or center points. So, like, I think a Metroidvania has a center point that you can sort of triangulate. In terms of a Metroidvania, what I think are important are, um, I would say that a Metroidvania is a game, usually a platformer, or at least a game with platforming elements, where the world is clopen, and by that I mean closed and open. So it feels a little bit like an open world, but it also feels a bit like a maze.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
where backtracking is, which does have not basically non-linear exploration, utility gated exploration, and um, oh goodness, what's the other thing? And to be honest, I think that in a Metroidvania, this might be a bit of a bold claim, but I think that in a Metroidvania, the central puzzle is an environmental puzzle, and it is in the form of a question.
Okay.
How do I get over there?
Right.
That is the central puzzle of any Metroidvania. I'm not sure if you're playing a Metroidvania if that is not actually at least a frequent,
Yeah.
important puzzle,
Right.
even if it's not the exact central puzzle of every Metroidvania, because
Okay.
some, are more influenced by like the combat of something like Dark Souls, and they might focus more on that, for example.
Okay. Now, can you work in a part of this definition for me? Because I'm very familiar with the Metroid style, played a lot of those games,
Mm-hmm.
haven't played as much of the Castlevania. Do we say the Metroidvania is inclusive of some sort of element of Castlevania, or is it just a way to kind of not say Metroid? Can you fill that in for me and just clarify exactly what is Castlevania-ish about a Metroidvania, if anything at all?
So the problem is here that this genre has two sort of origin points. It has an origin point and it probably goes back further than this, to be honest. There are probably more proto Metroidvanias, but its two origin points are Super Metroid and Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Okay.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night and Super Metroid have a lot of these things in common. They both have utility gated exploration. They both have combat that is there but is not the only focus. They both talk a lot and do a lot of things with atmosphere, right? However, um, there is one major difference, and actually, this is part of how you can tell what lineage you're in. So, a lot of people will call a game that's more Metroidy a Metroid-like. They'll call it more of a Igavania, which, if it's in the style of Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which
Oh,
I think it's Koji Igarashi who
right.
made that, who made a lot of those series, and basically a castle and the main difference between the sort of the Igavania line and the Metroid Super Metroid line, besides maybe some thematic things, because an Igavania is going to be often, like thematically is maybe going to be a little bit more I don't know, might tend to be a little more, fantasy castle-y,
Okay.
is that is that an Igavania style or Symphony of the Night Legacy Vania has um, has RPG elements that go beyond the superficial. So like
Oh, okay.
A Metroid will tend to cap its item and stat progression more at like Legend of Zelda levels, where you might get like heart containers and things like that, and different types of equipment, maybe a sword upgrade or two. But an Egavania will often have like levels with skill trees. For example,
Thank you
this
for the
last
sub,
year,
Cynic.
after Hollow Knight Silksong came out, I of course celebrated by playing After Image, which is definitely not the same type of thing because despite its fantasy setting, the Hollow Knight series of games is Metroid-like.
Right.
It is
It
capped
is.
at Zelda-style progression for items and stats. After Image is much more in the vein of an old school game where you level up, you get stat increases, you're constantly thinking about is this armor better or is that armor better
Sure.
for my character for this context. This one bumps my fire damage up, but it decreases my ability to heal or whatever. And those things happen a little bit in games like Hollow Knight with the charms, but not not as much.
Okay, let me
As
thank
they do,
thank
not as
Feeble
yes,
here
please
for
thank
being
you.
a 2-month Prime subscriber, and thank you to Beer Fox for the for actually Beer Fox was gifted the tier 1 sub by Cynic, so thank you. Okay, guys, we have a poll out right now. What should Dan play next, Metroid or Castlevania? And you can choose this, like which one do you like better? And right now, Castlevania is actually winning. Okay, tell us, if I can ask, is there a Catholic element to your group that you're a game dev with, or to how you approach game development?
That depends on the group.
Okay.
There is one to mine, I think. I try to keep things. I try to generally do things that I think will be like as far as like content goes. I don't tend to do a lot of violence. Most
Right.
of the stuff that happens in that realm tends to be very cartoony for me. I don't. I just if I think something might be a problem for me in my faith, I generally try to approach it with caution. Um, and I'm not saying I'm perfect at this by any means, but I do try to stay, kind of true to, being Catholic.
Yeah.
I think
And you
in terms
mentioned
of
the no porn, and not just the no porn, but probably I'd say crude content within the game as well. By the way, if I could pause real quick again on that, right as I'm talking about the P word. Thank you, Trekkie, for the 5 gifted subs. We started a level 3 hype train. Let's see if we can keep it going, guys. Okay, Dan, you were on a roll.
yes. So like I think one thing that's notable is a lot of my games end up feeling sort of like um and sometimes they're maybe dark fairy tales, but they kind of feel like maybe kind of cartoonishly violent Chestertonian fairy tales a little bit. That's probably the biggest uh, the biggest influence, like literarily speaking. So like I mentioned a game, and I'm gonna give something away a little bit for purposes of I guess illustration, as it were.
Yeah, please.
And this is one that we're not gonna play today, but there's a game that we're not gonna play today, but it's called Big Beast in the Maze, and this is a game that I made for ZZC, not a Metroidvania, in
Thank you, KMax.
In 2020. And in Big Beast in the Maze, you are playing as a nameless rebel who has been asked to enter an island maze and to sort of pacify the beast within.
Okay.
Now, what you have been set up to believe is that your job is to slay the beast.
Okay.
This is actually not the only option, and without necessarily putting a judgment call on the players who choose one or the other, I don't think it's the best ending.
Okay.
But it is one of 2 that I would consider to be good endings of the game.
Okay. Probably
because there is a way to solve the game
Yeah.
without creating more bloodshed and also pacifying the beast.
Okay.
And so for me, that game feels very much like a fairy tale vibe. I learned from others that because I made this game, and people in the ZTC community especially expect me to make hard games, that the game actually inadvertently takes on a horror vibe when you're starting it, because you're expecting a big beast to come out and attack you in the middle of the maze at some point. Until you get about 2/3 of the way through, and it finally dawns on you that there is, in fact, no big beast that's just going to come and attack you randomly. You just have to solve a maze in what is essentially a small step up in gaminess from a regular walking simulator.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Okay. Okay, so thank you for expressing to us kind of how the faith fits in there. My takeaway is that you try to make these games reflective of your morals, and that is a wonderful way to say it. And we talked about craftsmanship earlier. We know you put everything that you can into this. One of the things that I'd like to do eventually is, man, I'd probably pay you a good sum of money to make a daily grind where gamers find grace game. How long would that kind of thing take, and how much effort are we talking about? A simple platformer, Metrovania style. Go collect your sacramentals. You learn about those sacramentals or something. How much time does that take, and what's the level of effort?
I think that depends because like we can talk about this later, but like basically what I would probably be inclined to do is going to be oh great, it's Castlevania. That means I have to go back and try
Castlevania's the winner. I actually expected
to try to
Metroid.
beat one of my GBA collection games now again, which means I sorry, I got stuck on death in one of them and I was just like now and when you get stuck on a boss in a Castlevania game, you're just like whatever.
Yep.
Um uh the sorry, I'm just remembering that horrible boss.
Yeah.
Um um
We're talking about developing a game for the show, maybe
Yeah,
for the Discord. We
yeah.
talked about it a
So
little bit
what
before.
I would, yeah, and I had a moment where I wanted to make a game actually, and it was going to be a platformer, and the idea was going to be to make people from your Discord design the levels and then make you play it, basically. Um, and to be honest, that could probably still be arranged. I think what I would probably try to do would be to set up a very basic set of movement constraints.
Yeah.
If it was going to be a Metroidvania, I would probably pair a mobility or utility ability with the different places where you would learn about sacramentals.
Okay.
And then like maybe try to find a mobility ability that would like pair with the particular sacramental in question. Um, and you and I could talk about that part offline about like, what sacramental would pair with a wall hang or a double jump, because I don't actually know off the top of my head. Um, and
Stations of the
basically,
Cross.
yeah, yes,
Stained glass windows.
yeah, you could do a lot of stuff with that. And basically, I think the idea would be if you want to do Metroidvania style, you'd basically have to get the community into a giant spreadsheet and say, hey, you're doing this room. It needs to link to this room in these ways,
Yeah.
and it needs to require this ability to get here.
Okay.
And you basically have the community design a room-based platformer for you, and then make you play it later.
Yeah.
Like ideally, you would have some input on how it started,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't want you to have input on how it ended. Also, I don't want to do all the level designs. So I would probably try to farm that out to your Discord in a more community-oriented way. Like maybe have a channel where Millennial can be there, but you're not really going to look at it, so
Right.
that everybody can sort of plan and plot against you on a spreadsheet and like passing these level files back and forth to each other to build the game.
Yeah.
Without you actually seeing what it's going to be until it actually is done.
I
Anyway,
would love to
that's the
I would
idea
love to
that I would want
fund
to do.
or even crowd fund some sort of, I know there's Catholic games out there, but I can't really think of a simple game on Steam where you could be a child, you could be an adult, and you're learning about the Catholic faith. You're going and learning about maybe popes, and maybe you could have a, themed levels or things like that. So it's something to brainstorm with you for the future. But I am absolutely interested in that. We're coming to the end of our time of our general chat here. Anything
Yeah.
else you want to tell us about game development, your Catholic input on that, or anything in general about your games?
So I have two things. One's a hot take that relates to something that was said earlier today. Okay. Um,
Okay, go.
okay. So earlier, someone asked about Zelda 2,
Yes.
or someone said that Zelda 2. So
Beer
this is
Fox
gonna
had said that Zelda is his favorite Metroidvania, and I said, well, I think that Zelda 2 might.
So I think Zelda 2 is actually further away than if you're asking, like if you're talking about the purest definitions. Having a world map which itself serves as a mode of exploration is generally considered to be a thing that decreases a game's Metroidvania-ness, at least the more purist you get. And that's something Zelda 2 does have. However, Zelda 1 does not have that. Zelda 1 has a world map that feeds directly into the dungeons,
Yes.
but modally is the same thing as the dungeons. Zelda gameplay does not change between the two. So this is a vibe, not necessarily like a be-all, end-all stuff,
Right.
but personally, for me, the modality being the same or similar between areas is important. And if there's a world map screen where I'm walking around, is that fundamentally different from being able to look at a world map and go to a warp point in a regular Metroidvania? I don't know if I would
Sure.
call it that, but you could argue from a more pure perspective that Zelda Link to the Past or Zelda. I'm sorry, I'm putting my hand up a lot. That's probably a little rude.
No, it's
Zelda
okay.
Link to the Past or Zelda on the NES is actually truer Metroidvania-ness than Zelda 2, even though Zelda 2 has platforming.
Yeah.
If Zelda 2 were platforming on its world map as well, it would probably feel more Metroidvania conceptually too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you're
Um,
exactly right. That's a good
but
clarification.
I don't have a way to legally play Zelda 2 that I know about right now, so I actually haven't verified that for myself.
Okay, we need to
I
get
have
you
played
on
a game
that.
that was similar called Phoenotopia Awakening,
Yeah.
so I can speak to it kind of from that perspective. Whether that really matters that much in the long run, is it Metroidvania still probably about, I don't know, 70, 80%? Probably.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yep. Okay, man. We're getting ready for quickfire co-op. Thank you for all that. I just want to let everybody know what I just dropped into the chat. So those are links to games that our boy here, Dan, has created. And Millennial is going to continue to put in some stuff for the chat. Take those, open them on your browser, save them from later. A couple of those I've already played. Tonight I'm playing Missing Cats. That's the lowest link. And I did play Dunk Tank earlier. Dunk Tank, yeah, it's a little confusing. It took me probably 15 deaths, maybe more. And that happened within the first like 20 seconds. Took me about 15 to 20 deaths to even realize, oh, that's why I'm dying. That's why I'm getting dunked. And I thought it was cute. In fact, it's kind of like a game show little thing. Open that up sometime, maybe not now, and give it a whirl, because I guarantee you you're gonna be addicted once you realize, oh, okay, this is a math game. That's the only spoiler I'll give. Okay, it's time for quick fire co-op. I'm going to ask you 10 rapid fire questions. I want your best answers, but I also want you to give me your answers quick, okay? Because that makes this a little bit more fun. All right, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets asked this question. What's your earliest gaming memory?
Hanging out with my friend Megan, and she would play. Oh goodness, it was one of the old Mario games, like the All Stars collection. And I didn't actually really want to play that badly. I just kind of wanted to watch at that time. I
Yeah.
wasn't ready to play for some
Okay.
reason.
Okay.
Um,
NES All-Star, you said?
it was the Super Nintendo Mario All Stars. It was
Oh.
the collection of the NES
Oh,
ones that had been
right,
remastered
right.
to SNES levels.
Sorry, I got that one a little wrong. I'm listening. So let me ask a branch off that. Nintendo or Sega growing up?
Dollar Store Nintendo. Oh, growing up Nintendo easily.
Yeah, okay. Did you ever own a PlayStation? PlayStation 1?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay. Compare the PlayStation against the N64. Which one won?
PlayStation, honestly.
Yeah?
I don't want to say that, but I think it's probably true.
Yeah, PlayStation 2 or GameCube?
Just GameCube. But
Nice.
that may be personal vibes, but that one I just have to get.
Yeah,
the
I got my
GameCube.
GameCube right here, right on top of my PC. Actually, it's probably burning up on with the exhaust. Okay, question number 2. First game that made you say, that jump is cursed.
Oh, that jump is. Oh man, I can't even remember. I grew up in the DOS era, so it's gonna take a lot to make me say that jump is cursed.
Yeah.
Honestly, the first one I remember was like a Metroidvania month entry for something past 2020. So it can't be it might not be the first game that made me say that, but it's the first one that I can remember actually the game making me say that, making me think that or similar, just because the arc was like straight up and straight down. It was just like no float, like it wasn't a good float jump, and it wasn't a good like a good quick jump. Like it wasn't Hollow Knight, it wasn't N, it wasn't a good, it didn't feel like a very good jump.
Okay, man. Good answer. Next one, I think you're going to have a great one for. So you've developed many games. What is one saint you'd invite to give a talk with you on developing a level design?
Oh, goodness. Okay. So I'm going to this is kind of an in the dark thing because I actually don't have a super big Divine Mercy devotion and I've never read the diary. But I'm going to say Sister Faustina.
Okay.
Because I think that mercy is important in game design. And I think it's important that you show mercy to the player when in doubt. and that's in addition to, not instead of, whatever you do that involves a game exploring Mercy, which is something that I would like to do with the game that I'm working on right now, but that one's not really ready to show yet. So.
Beautiful answer, man. That was great. Okay, favorite dev tool you can't live without.
Oh, can't live without. Honestly, at this point, it's probably Aseprite. That's the tool that I use for pixel art.
Cool.
But I don't really have one aside from that. And even that one, if I'm not doing the art, isn't really as important.
Maybe you should be making my emotes. Like, I'm paying a lot of money to a guy on Fiverr to make those things. All right, question 5. Favorite liturgy to sing before a long dev sprint, Vespers or Compline?
I guess it depends on when I start the dev sprint, because if I start the dev sprint after dinner, ideally I've already done Vespers beforehand, which means Vespers came first. Compline might be a little bit of a pause in the middle of the sprint, depending upon how late I'm going. Assuming, of course, that I remember to do it before, 2 in the morning. The nice thing about Compline, though, you forget till 2 in the morning. There's no excuse not to do it because it takes like 5 minutes.
Nice. It does. Yeah, so, okay, biggest bug horror story.
In Rest Stop 23, which is the game that I took through the game dev crunch fire with my friend Zephyr to finish, well, I was up multiple nights late on a work night, and he was up with a flu, making those boss noises that you've heard. He and I finished the game, and then we got it done. There was a bug that caused the game to crash if you died before getting to a save point, because of the way that I had programmed something that was unpleasant. There was also a bug involving an obscure edge case, the way that I handled room movement, where you could get stuck in walls.
Okay.
Thankfully, the stuck in walls thing was fairly easy to reproduce once someone finally pushed me to like really explore what was going on with it. And it was easy to kind of create a little Band-Aid exception for. And the other one, I believe, was also easy to fix. You just had to avoid resetting a certain value or reset a certain value after the player died if they didn't get to a save point, or something like that.
Complicated, man. That is a real dev explanation. Let's give you an easier one. One piece of advice that you'd give to a new indie developer on scope management.
Small.
Like less is more?
Small. Yes. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm just going to keep saying it until you stop. Small.
Keep going.
Stop. Small.
Red light, green light. Okay, number 8. If you could add one sacramental item to a Metroidvania, what one would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would probably add Blessed Palms to Castlevania, because I'm pretty sure that's one that it doesn't have yet. But Castlevania actually does the Dracula thing of sacramentals having real power. And I think that's kind of cool. I'm not saying that that's necessarily entirely theologically accurate. That might be a bit of what people call D&D theology. But I think I would add another sacramental to Castlevania and sort of up its Catholic cred a little bit. Because I think it kind of goes back and forth on how Catholic of a game it wants to be.
Right.
Even though it's always going to be a little bit like the way that a JRPG might portray Catholicism.
See, that's what we need to do. That's got to be the game that we make. We got to chalk doors and stuff to keep the boss on like one side of the room. You got to know your sacramentals in order to fight these bosses. Okay, what is your favorite guilty pleasure game? Like something you're just embarrassed to tell us you love.
I liked The Sims 3 a lot. That one's actually hidden from my Steam library.
Oh my gosh.
Also, just idle games in general, I think. Would also be an example of one that I not that I think, and neither of those things is really wrong to play, but like it can take so much time. Beer Fox says Balatro, but Balatro I don't feel that is not a guilty pleasure as much for me.
That's a fun
just
game.
Because I'm not playing Balatro right now.
Yeah.
But Balatro is not a guilty pleasure for me. Just like Brotato and Vampire Survivors are not a guilty pleasure for me. Star Wars. You didn't like Balatro for too much math. Skill issue. Okay.
It does the math for you. I played Balatro for the first time 2 weeks ago. One of our viewers bought it for me, and it took me like a month to get it in. But I was hooked. That game is a lot of fun. Okay, last one. One line from scripture or a hymn that keeps you steady during your dev crunch.
Oh, goodness. I don't even know if I have a single... I don't know if I have a single line for this. The thing is, I do the Liturgy of the Hours a fair amount. I did a lot of Lauds, Vespers, and Compline. I'm kind of just on... I kind of hit a patch, and I I fell off it a little bit, so I've been
Okay.
back on with Vespers and Compline a little bit more in recent times, which is good. Um, but honestly, there's not really like a line that really keeps me going during a crunch. Um, I mean, I could make a little joke about, let the watchman count on daybreak in Israel and the Lord.
Yeah.
If you're really late, I think that's a good one. But aside from that, I don't really have one. I think sometimes the thing with the Psalms is they get in your brain and like little tiny things will come to your head just sometimes and just make you amused. So I would say that one is kind of just a good one as a joke a little bit, but also like anything that comes to my brain that makes me amused. Like once in a while, I'll just try and remember like stuff like even my friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has turned against me, and little things like that from or like the thing that I like to say to
Job.
my friends whenever they have a new child, like you will have no cause for shame when you dispute with your foes in the gateways, things like that.
That's awesome, man. That's cool. Okay, man. Hope you enjoyed talking to Kairos here. Kairos, I want to leave you with the last word. Andy, I want you to put those links in the chat so that we can go and find you wherever you go. So tell us again what you do and where to find all your work and why.
So you can find me at www.itch.io. No, sorry, you can find me at kkairos.itch.io. Or if you're trying to be really correct about the Greek, I think it would be kkairos.itch.io, but it's kkairos at .itch.io. I would also recommend you look up Puzzle Depot on Steam. We haven't talked a lot about this, but that is a game that was over 10 years in the making. I have been involved in that since it was a freeware Megazeus game. And then it kind of evolved, had the spiritual sequel of Puzzle Depot. And it's a game about employees of a shipping company who get drawn into a post-apocalyptic box-pushing dungeon crawl adventure.
Oh my
That is
gosh.
probably the best way to put it. It's really, really good. The writing is really amazing. I think the music is pretty good. Probably the soundtrack work is among the proudest I've ever been of my own music.
Yeah.
And I personally think that the other composer's music is even better. One of them is somebody who is working with me on my current project and who I would classify as one of the best composers that I know personally.
Not Sean Beeson.
No, actually, not Sean Beeson, different person, amazing composer, in my book.
Yeah.
And he's one of the three on the Puzzle Depot soundtrack.
I would love to
So
know
I
who
would say
that is so that we can have him on the show and talk about games and music. Yeah, make it happen for me. Okay, buddy, are you ready for your boss battle challenge? Let's go. That was a thumbs up. All right, here it comes, your boss battle time. And tonight's gauntlet is called Metroid Mechanics. Dan has made 8 of these things, and let's see if he can survive his own genre with his knowledge and his knowledge. Let's remember that chat, your bits and your gifted subs, your subs, even if they're not gifted, are blessed or damned. You can buy him batteries, or you can take them away with your bits or with your subs, or you can just not give because we got so much earlier. And thank you to everybody who gave. Really appreciate it. Okay, buddy, are you ready to test your knowledge?
Sure.
Okay, so you've got 10 batteries, and like a Game Gear, you need to keep that console on, okay? For every one of these that you miss, you lose a battery, and you cannot gain them back unless people buy them for you, okay? So don't let it deplete. Question 1, in classic Metroid titles, which mechanic more often gates vertical progression? The double jump or the grappling beam?
Double jump.
Oh, the answer is the grappling beam. So real quick, what did I say about what I said about gate vertical progression? What does that mean?
It means that it would gate your ability to get somewhere, I would assume vertically, like a shaft.
Right.
And to be honest, I would have expected ice beam to be the thing that would gate the vertical progression. But since the choices were grappling hook and double jump, I assumed that the double jump lets you go higher would be more of the thing that would gate that, whereas the grappling hook would be primarily about crossing gaps horizontally.
Yeah. I
Hence
guess it's kind of a
why I
trick
said what I
question.
said.
Hey, look, all of the guests agree that my questions are the worst. So bear with it. Okay, question number 2. Which jump philosophy is more beloved in playtests? Long, smooth, unbroken arcs, or fast micro hops with high responsiveness?
Oh, goodness. So wait, one more time. Long,
Which
smooth.
which jump philosophy is more beloved in playtest? The first choice is long, smooth, unbroken arcs, or number two, fast micro hops with high responsiveness.
I mean, ideally, you get the option for both, but I would guess the second if I had to choose.
Hey, I didn't make up these answers. Yeah, I did. I'm going to go with long unbroken arcs, and I haven't been taking away your batteries. Dude, you've lost 2 batteries. I'm sorry, man.
It's okay.
Think hard, okay, with these trick questions. Question 3. When tuning jump feel, do players prefer a floaty apex or a fast, snappy peak?
Oh, that is a good question. I know what I prefer, which is floaty apex, and I'm going to say that, and I'm sticking to it. Anybody who doesn't is wrong, even if this answer tells me I'm wrong.
Yeah, you're definitely wrong on the poll that I found online. And I just want to say that the game we're playing tonight, Missing Cats, definitely has a very floaty jump to it, which I really appreciate because it means that I was not missing all of those platforms. You guys will see what I'm talking about later. Okay, man, you're down to 6 batteries. I think you haven't gotten a question right yet. Somebody's got to rescue you. Question 4. In Rune Diver 3, I went and looked this up, Turbo Silver Edition, people swear there's an artifact that alters gravity. Real mechanic or pure fan legend?
I mean, to be honest, so alters gravity.
An artifact that alters gravity. Is this an actual thing you guys built, or is this just people feeling it and feeling wrong?
So this is Ruin Diver?
Yeah.
Okay. I would be forced to say yes on 2 counts. In the sense that they don't, yes in a sense and no in a sense. Does it alter gravity? No. Does it modify your ability to move through gravity? Yes. Because, and I can defend this, okay? And by the way, if I get this one wrong too, everybody remember, I'm practiced. I'm not theory.
You're not going in the right direction.
Here's the thing. Not Ninjet. Ninjet can climb on walls, so she can move up despite gravity. Valkyrie has the mace, which acts kind of like Dixie Kong's hair, except it kills things. And Fairy can fly. However, I'm going to say that there is no artifact that alters gravity because none of those things technically alter the way that gravity works. All they do is allow you to counteract it with your character.
Boom. Exactly. That's the kind of answer I was looking for. It's a total legend. It's the fans feeling it out and making them think that it gets you across these gaps better. That's what I found online.
Tell me where you read that one, because I did not know that was a thing somebody thought was in the game. That's amazing.
I think it was somewhere in like the reviews or something on Steam or wherever it's located. Okay, question 5. Which is deadlier for player trust as a dev? Which is deadlier for player trust? Damage through ledge or corner hitbox overlap? And I think we can gather from context clues what those are. Damage through ledge or corner hitbox overlap? Trekkie, don't answer this. I know how Trekkie would answer this. Which one is deadlier for player trust?
Player trust. Oh man, that's a good question.
Damage through ledge or corner hitbox overlap?
Oh, goodness. I would imagine that corner hitbox overlap would include the first one, so I'm saying that.
So you just said both the answers.
I said corner box overlap because I'd imagine it would include the first.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair way to structure that. The official answer is damage through ledge. People cannot stand not making a ledge that they should have made.
Damage. No, I didn't actually know what that was. I assumed you meant getting damaged when it appeared that you had a ledge between you and the thing damaging you, actually. That was how I read that. I did not read that as not making a ledge that you thought you should have made.
Yeah, it's one or the other. Okay,
yeah,
but
sorry,
hey, look, I think that does cover the hitbox in the corner, so why not? It'd be the pixel that of your person or the pixel of the stage. Okay, question 6. I'll get no batteries for that one. True or false? Input buffering, letting the jump trigger slightly early boosts player satisfaction.
Yes.
Answer is true. Tell us about that.
So input buffering is because essentially, if you expect perfect timing from your players, they're often going to time it wrong, or they're going to time it quote unquote wrong. And the reason I say that is because, yeah, they are technically timing it wrong, but also, if you can't expect a certain amount of precision um, from people. So having input buffering makes the game feel more fair by giving more grace to the player in terms of the timing they need to put that input in, which reminds me that my current project does not have input buffering, and maybe I should build that in,
Wow.
actually.
Okay, I actually did not know that. I didn't know it until I made the question, but it kind of makes a little bit of sense, as most people would get that timing wrong. Okay, question number 7. What gets adjusted more post-launch? This again was internet research.
Yeah.
Enemy AI aggression or base movement physics?
I believe you actually gave me the answer to this one, so I don't know if we should count it, but I believe it's the first one. And
Enemy
if I still
AI
get it,
aggression?
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, the aggro in most games has to be, it has to have crowd input, is what I read on most dev forums.
And that does make sense if you followed the release of Silksong recently. You'll know that for a very high profile for indie standards release, it did receive a lot of nerfs to at least one of its areas. People felt that the game's runbacks in particular were too punishing, and so there were a lot of things that got nerfed. I don't know if any actual enemy AI got nerfed, but the difficulty certainly did a little bit in places.
Yeah, yeah. What you call those crybabies?
Oh, I wouldn't in this case. Silksong is very difficult and very punishing.
Dang. Okay. Well, I'm going to shut my mouth then because we all know that Shaun is pretty bad at games. In fact,
Actually, I think you're pretty good at games. I
wow.
see. I believe I bought you N++, and I watched you play some of it, and you're pretty good at video games.
Dang, dude. Okay,
That's not
guys.
an easy platformer.
Let's put it in chat because just about everybody in chat, Millennial, can you get this? Is
Okay.
Shaun good at video games? Yes
Okay, wait,
or
wait.
no?
My defense here. Shaun is good at platformers. Okay, I've heard stories about Shaun in Mario Kart. I don't know if he's good at Mario Kart. I can't speak to that, but he's pretty good at platformers, I think.
Dang, man. Okay, well that made my night, dude. I was having the worst week. Wasn't even gonna have the show, but that comment right there, that fired me up, man. Okay, question 8. What ruins trust faster? Another trust question. What ruins trust faster? Sticky wall collisions or inconsistent ledge jumps suck? People
Yeah.
get mad. Okay, I agree with you on that one. So does the internet. Question 9. Which single, by the way, the poll is in the chat. Please vote. We hit our followers goal.
Yay.
It kind of cut out the audio. We hit the followers goal. Thank you. Okay. Oh, that means that the last follower was the one that made it, and it's just delayed.
Why?
Thank
Why
you,
did it say
Twitch.
yes, no, probably not for is Shaun good at platformers? Why are those the
I didn't
options
make
people?
it. Millennial did. Okay.
Millennial.
Question 9. Which single movement upgrade most reliably turns a slow game fast? Double jump, wall jump, or dash? Which single movement upgrade most reliably turns a slow game fast? Double jump, wall jump, or dash?
I'm gonna say it's the dash. I feel like this is gonna be wrong somehow,
Nope.
but I'm gonna say dash.
Nope. Survey says dash. Players,
Yeah.
if they can get a faster player, always feel an instant sense of satisfaction, whether it started at the beginning of the game or not. They like going a little faster horizontally. Okay. Now, look, this isn't my opinion. This is the internet. All right. Question 10. For checkpoints, which philosophy rules clustering saves around hard platforming sections or spreading them evenly and predictably?
Okay, so clustering saves are in important sections or spreading them evenly and predictably.
Yeah, which philosophy rules? Which is predominant?
And we're talking checkpoints or save points?
Cluster for checkpoints.
So checkpoints where like if you get hit with something, you're going to respond at that checkpoint.
Yeah,
instead
before
of
you're
the
going
instead
into a
of-
difficult area, should you get that checkpoint? Or should they just be evenly placed throughout the level no matter what's ahead?
I mean, oh, cluster them around important areas. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're asking which philosophy rules or which philosophy players prefer? Because those might be
Amongst
different answers.
developers, what's the preference?
Amongst developers, okay. I would probably say the first one among developers, but
Yeah.
I don't actually know the answer is.
Yep. This is just community stuff that I read. Clustering.
Yeah, so I would say
clustering is the
clustering for the
generally
developers.
preferred philosophy.
I mean, honestly, I think, and to be honest, my own philosophy would probably be cluster them, but also set a minimum of how often they're going to be there. So like, double check it, sanity check it, just to make sure you don't have like a mile of pain between save points unless you've intentionally implemented a challenge area. But that's me.
Dang, we got a tie. We only had 4 votes. We had a tie. Yes and absolutely not.
Amazing.
Thanks, guys. All right, I guess I'm right in the middle where I was. Don't know the right answer. Okay, question 11. Which creates deeper player commitment, adding fast travel or leaving it out?
Fast travel.
Adding fast travel?
You know what? I think
Creates deeper player commitment.
oh goodness, deeper player
Adding it or leaving
commitment
it out?
to the game or to the developer?
Well, this
Does
is
it does it distinguish
I'd say it's for the player.
for the player? Okay.
Player commitment.
Uh, I'm gonna say adding fast travel in terms of like if we're talking about going full completionist or even finishing the game. Yeah, I would say fast travel.
Yeah, I would disagree with what the internet says here. It says leaving it out, so you lose a battery. But I would totally agree is that whenever you open up a large map and are able to go, like Metroids, able to use the elevator system to go to over to Nebulous,
Yeah.
whatever. That's a perk to me because then I don't have to backtrack and face all those enemies once again and so forth. But I guess some people also like grinding and getting all those not the upgrades, but the items on the way. I think that was the philosophy that I had read. Okay, question 12. There are no wrong answers here, but you are losing batteries. Name one classic Metrovania convention you wish would die forever. This one's open-ended, so chat, brace yourselves. Name one classic Metrovania convention you would wish would die forever.
So I just have to name one.
Yeah.
Okay. That I wish would die forever. It's a classic convention that I wish would die. It's not the Corpse Run because that's not a classic yet, thankfully. So this is something that players were told about.
This is totally you. You're the dev.
Oh, this is just me. Okay.
Name one classic Metrovania convention that you wish would die forever. We'll either cheer you.
Oh, yes, I've got it. I've got it. Okay.
Yeah, we're either going to cheer for you because you said this.
In Super Metroid, there are an obscene number of places that you must just bomb to know where the secret is. And the way that that game hides secrets just seems so maddeningly specific, and that I don't know I can justify it. And here's how I can tell you I learned this partly. One of the games that is most inspired by Super Metroid is a robot named Fight. Please don't look that up right now unless you want to be disgusted. Ooh. It is a post-apocalyptic, grimdark sci-fi sort of thing where the only things left are robots and flesh that used to be humans, basically. It's a very depressing game.
Yeah.
It's also a roguelike structured sort of roguelite, I would actually have to say, roguelite structured Metroidvania. And it does all of that stuff fairly well, but it takes its inspiration from Super Metroid, which means that the secrets aren't as well hidden as they would be in Super Metroid, but there's a lot of rooms that you basically just know there's going to be a secret in there somewhere because there's no other way to get to the other side and just have to like look for it.
Right.
And so for me, that just tells me that if I get to that point in Super Metroid where I have to go and find the secrets, it's going to be a tedious process for me unless I use a walkthrough.
Yes.
And that doesn't seem like it's going to be a fun experience. Now, there might be a class of player, there might be somebody who really values that exploration more. But at the same time, if you're asking me if there's one that I think could die, I think abundance of mandatory secret walls would be the one.
I've got to sit here and say, wow, that didn't occur to me, but thank you for mentioning that. Chat, why are you not going wild right now over this? He's exactly right. The classic to me, and I have never gotten this far, I've only seen other people get this far, but on classic Metroid, NES Metroid, the second to last boss, I think it is, you have to literally go down to a pit where you would usually die right as you enter the boss area in order to get an extra tank. And it makes no sense. Why would anybody hide that there? Why would anybody want to go down there, use something to shoot it out with a missile, and risk all the death while they're trying to fight this very stressful boss? That is just like the game developers trolling you. Now, I'll say in Super Metroid, you can use the bomb to pretty much obliterate everything in the room and find your stuff when you're like, oh my gosh, where do I go? But for any other game to do that, yeah, I would agree with you. Hallelujah. You just preach the truth, brother. I can't stand that kind of stuff. Thank you. I know chat has to feel the same. Okay, man, how'd you think you did? You ended up with 6 batteries. You are not the worst boss battler. That goes to Kmart, who was last week's guest, and he bombed it on purpose. He was like, Shaun, I want to get you donations. Not a single person gives during boss battle anymore. They're like, nope, we're done. And we're going to give that at the end of the show or at the beginning of the show. And it's okay. All right, man, you did good. Next is Poll Party, guys, where we're going to have a little bit of fun together. So get out your keyboards and be prepared to vote and have some similar fun. All right, man, it's Poll Party, and this is Would You Rather Dev Edition. So pretend you are a game developer, make your choices based on the hashtags that we give you, and Kkarios, who's laughing over here, he is going to have to defend your decision. So it doesn't matter to me if it makes sense. He's going to defend it for you. This is one of my favorite games that we play. Okay, are you ready? Kkarios. Okay, yeah, you're still here. All right, we're going to put 60 seconds on the clock, and this is round 1. Would you rather refactor 10,000 lines of spaghetti code, hashtag refactor, or rewrite the game's art pipeline from scratch, hashtag art redux? What does that mean? The art game's art pipeline.
I am choosing to believe that it involves how the art is displayed in the game and not remake all the assets from scratch, but I don't know which one it actually means.
All right, I'm not seeing votes show up, guys. Hold on 1 second. Pause. Stream elements. Let's check the way that Shaun coded you. Forgive me, guys. Got to do a little bit of my own dev work here. Tell us a joke. Tell us a joke. Tell us something else that's going to boggle our minds while I go and fix the code.
In Metroidvania Month 20, I attempted to make a procedurally generated Metroidvania of my own. I had a roguelite thing I'm just going to lean into at the very end. If someone wants to look up Totems of the Yonder, you will find that on itch.io, and you could drop a link there if you like. No pressure. That one is a little bit difficult, though. I didn't quite do my initialization correctly, so you can't play more than one run in a single session without getting soft locked. I got a lot of reports of people who said that seeds were broken. That was not the case. It wasn't the seed that was broken, it was the initialization values, so you couldn't play more than one session in a single, or you couldn't play more than one run in a session, which is obviously death if you're trying to go with a roguelike structure on anything. However, I am fairly happy with the map generation, the way that it came out. I think it's pretty good, spits out things that are unique. Mutatis Mutandis could have actually made a Steam-worthy game, but I haven't gotten there with it yet, even though I would like to revisit ProcGen in one of the last 5 Metroidvania months, which, for the record, I am intended to do all of those Metroidvania month jams as a bit. Well, not entirely as a bit. I think I've decided it's something I want to do for me. But I'm doing it for me also as a bit, which means I will be doing a monthly, a game jam quarterly for a month for the next, until next winter, when the jam finally ends.
All right, are we ready to test this out again? Golly, man. It is the hardest thing to run this show sometimes. Let's test this out again. Let's get the live poll up. I've got 60 seconds on the clock. And would you rather refactor 10,000 lines of spaghetti code, hashtag refactor, or rewrite the game's art pipeline from scratch, hashtag art redux? Uh-oh. Refactor.
Is it showing up?
No, it's broken.
I guess we just have to count it by hand.
Yeah, we can count it by hand while I do that. The clock is still going and we're redoing it, so please just enter your hashtag while I sit and perform surgery.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just going to do a copy paste when you say the time's up, and then and then put it in a notepad and count it that way.
I'm going to tell you that I think I know what it is.
Oh, yay. Okay, wait, I got a joke for you while you're doing this. What did the farmer say when he broke his tractor?
No, I don't know.
I broke my tractor.
Guys, I'm sorry. I'm working them.
I want to be very clear. I'm a developer, not a comedian. I
Can
do
you do
like writing
something for
funny
me?
things in games. What?
I've had a couple guests do this, and I'm still kind of a little bit confused on it. What is a rogue game? What is the roguelike thing?
Okay,
Roguelites,
so
I've heard. What does that mean?
Okay, so back in like the 80s or 70s, maybe, I don't remember exactly, but people would make these games called that were called roguelikes. They were called roguelikes because they were like Rogue. Uh, this is one of the drawbacks of naming a game after another game is roguelikes basically stem from an old school variety of dungeon crawlers, oftentimes ASCII based. They would tend to be modal in their presentation, so you'd be in the same mode of gameplay no matter what you were doing, including whether you were like doing a shop run or anything else, um, you would see,
I
yay,
fixed it.
yay.
Keep
Um,
going, and we'll restart.
and
Wow.
and roguelikes actually had, so much like Metroidvanias have at least two different legacies. They have the Castlevania legacy, and then they have the Metroid legacy, or the later Castlevania legacy, and also the, yeah, exactly, Comage. That's the problem with the thing. But anyway, there were like four different things that it could be a legacy for a not Metroidvania, sorry, for a roguelike game. It's sort of branched out now and sort of been, in my opinion, a little bit flattened. In my opinion, things like Slay the Spire are not necessarily something I would call a roguelike. I have sort of acquiesced to call things traditional roguelikes when I'm talking about the actual turn-based dungeon crawlers with heavy procedural generation and permadeath, which is what the broad stroke grid-based tactical combat, um, permadeath, heavy emphasis on proc gen, or procedural generation, and oftentimes, but not always, ASCII based in terms of their graphics. Modern examples would be Caves of Cud, Cogmind, I believe,
Cud like pig poop?
QUD.
Oh,
It's, I think it might be pronounced Cud,
like biblical cud?
yeah, but I think it's spelled QUD, so I'm not 100% sure.
Cute.
The let's see, Cogmind is a good example of a modern one in the NetHack vein. B-Rogue has some things in it that I'm not super comfortable with spiritually, but I would love Sean to play it, and I would like to like make like a joke version that's
Chex
sort of like
Quest.
very Irishly themed and sort of cuts out a little bit of the stuff that is less
Yeah.
a little less favor to me on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
Just because I think it would be funny for Sean to have to play B-Rogue.
All right,
But it's
Kairos.
also a very pretty game. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Let's digress. I want to play
Yeah.
Chex Quest. I forgot that came out several years ago during COVID. The poll ended. Why would
Yes.
we want to refactor 10,000 lines of code? That sounds like a lot of work.
We did it before. I'm not exactly. I didn't do 10,000 lines of code before, but I think I did enough to say that I'd prepped for it. Back in 2014, 2015, I was making a Megazeus game called Card Knights. My friend, the composer I mentioned, had discovered that you could get multiplayer in turn-based fashion with Megazeus by running it through a Dropbox. And so I made a card game that you could battle people with called Card Knights. And I made a version of it that worked, but the code is like super just disorganized, right? Eventually, I went through, I refactored the entire thing with labels and go-tos that actually made sense, that you could read the code in order and it would actually almost self-document it. It would almost document itself. So I would say refactor is easy to justify because I have I have kind of done it already. Maybe not that many lines of code, but I've certainly done a refactor of some size before. I think that one may have been something on the order of, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 lines, but
That's a
I would
lot.
rather refactor spaghetti code than redo a bunch of art, assuming that what that other one means. Even
Yeah.
if it means redoing the art pipeline, I don't know what that means, and I've never used shaders before, so having to redo something I've never done before, assuming
Where?
that we're talking about shaders
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah. Where's
Ah.
David? Where's David? I bet he's listening. That'll call him to attention. Okay, round number 2. Quicker answers on these, okay?
Sorry.
Round number 2. Would you rather ship a bug fixed update that removes a beloved exploit, hashtag fix it, or keep the exploit because the community loves it, hashtag legacy? I want to hear your example of this. I know that we've probably felt a lot of those with like the Souls games, maybe cheesing a certain boss or something. Do you have an example of this?
Um, I will
Classic
give an
example?
example. I don't have a, it's maybe a classic now. But there's a game called The Messenger, and the developers of that are very interesting because they are on the legacy side of this.
Right.
But they will fix it if absolutely necessary. So at one point they removed a bug that speedrunners loved, but the only reason they did that was because it was a bug that you were likely to run into even if you weren't trying to speedrun. So it was going to break the game for non-speedrunners. Everything else, they tried their hardest to find a way to preserve it for the speedrunners without 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 leaving it to where it would break the game for other people.
All right, man. Legacy is the winner. Why would we go with the Legacy? You kind of just gave us an answer.
Because My Hero Sabotage Studios went with Legacy when they did The Messenger, and the speedrunners didn't want to lose their glitches.
Same answer like number 2, because we've done it before. Okay, round number 3. This is going to be a favorite of mine. Round number 3. Would you rather balance a boss fight by nerfing the boss, hashtag nerf, or buffing the player, hashtag buff? This is tough. This is tough. Let me ask you a question. I mentioned the Souls games, and we all know that there is ways to cheese, and those were eventually fixed. I didn't consider them broke. I considered it maybe a defective game that we exploited. Do you think if you were one of those developers there at the Elden Ring Studios, do you think that they fixed it because it wasn't the player experience or because there was actually something that was broke?
That's a good question. The perception reality divide might not be as thick of a wall as we think it is in that instance. I remember an extra credits video a while back that was really convincing. Oh man, you guys are about to hear the most sarcastic justification I've ever given in my life. Okay. The
poll ended, by the way. You got to defend.
Oh, the poll
Buff.
ended. Okay. Well, I'm going to defend Buff, but my defense is not going to be much of a defense. I would love to buff the player and therefore have to suddenly rebalance every other boss and encounter in the entire game. That sounds so much better than figuring out how to nerf just one enemy fight in the process.
Yeah.
That's why I should buff the player every time, because I want to redesign every boss in the game.
Tell us how you really feel. All right, man. Round 4. Let's get it on the board. Would you rather prototype with placeholder art forever, hashtag protolife, or ship early with a placeholder feel, early ship? What are we talking about here?
I think that first thing is, I don't actually know what forever means in this context. Hopefully it doesn't mean forever.
Maybe don't dev it out.
Yeah, maybe proto life doesn't, maybe just means that you just like don't. I hope proto life means that you eventually release something and maybe you just have to like prototype with placeholder art for what feels like forever.
Yeah.
In which case I can defend it. I wouldn't.
Or maybe
do it,
it's like stuff that you have in the beta, like maybe artwork you have in the beta.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm defending proto life at this point, so I might as well just do it. I don't think anybody's going to outvote it.
I don't know that we're going to get very many. I'll throw one in there to be the.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
The odd one.
I mean, to be quite honest, I've been doing game jams for the last 5 years. Of course, I'm early ship, but like at the same time, I would say proto life can be easily defended because you would rather. Because you would rather actually make something and know that it works and know that it's fun, even if the art is far from like ideal or far from complete. Because worst case scenario, you can always take that square and pretend you've done something minimalist on purpose at the end of the day.
Right.
Just put a couple shaders on it and call it good.
Right.
At least as far as I understand. Again, I really don't know how shaders work.
Me neither. They're a mystery to me. David, where are you? Okay, round number 5. Would you rather moderate a heated design critique Discord thread, hashtag mod thread, or debug a multiplayer desync at 2 a.m., hashtag desync? Now, I got a feeling here that one of these is a lot harder technically than the other. That's that multiplayer desync. So that sounds like a boss battle. What exactly is that? Desyncing so that's exactly what it sounds. Is that a server issue or is that something built into the code?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason that I'm hoping, and people want to torture me, they can pick desync, but I can really only There's only really one thing I have to say that can defend desync here.
Well, and
Um,
I guess if it wasn't, if it was a couch co-op and it was all on that game file,
yeah,
that it would
if
have
it's a
to be
multi,
a debug. Yeah.
yeah, if it's a desync on a local, oh yeah, that's right. I can always pretend I'm talking about couch co-op. That's true. I assumed I assumed because of the word desync that it was about
Yeah.
uh, internet stuff. What happens if they tie? What happens then?
You choose
Okay,
the breaker.
okay.
The silence is horrible. Okay, so would you rather desync or would you rather handle that Discord thread? Some
Mod
people
thread.
hate.
I already do it. I help moderate in a couple of Catholic spaces. There's even one of the places that is not. I do some moderation,
You do?
although it's mostly
I do.
sure. But it's mainly to keep out like expressly trolly people in that context. So I don't use it to moderate actual conversations, but it could in theory arise that I would have to do so. And I've already moderated what in my opinion is the theological opinion equivalent of a heated design critique Discord thread already. So I feel like doing one that's actually about game design would be a step down in intensity for me.
Yeah.
And I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, we had to put K-Max on some anxiety medicine so he can stop causing so many incredible arguments. All right, question number 6. K-Max, we love you. Question number 6. Would you rather get 5 glowing reviews and 2 brutal ones, hashtag mixed bag, or all lukewarm but polite reviews, hashtag safe? I can tell you as a book writer, oh, where's my books? As a book writer, ooh, this is tough because my conscience just can't handle a bad review sometimes, especially when I give K-Max a free book and he's like, oh, I don't like your book because you didn't include this one thing in it that pertained to only what I wanted to see in it. Yes, I'm calling you out. What do you say?
Oh man,
Actually, you're gonna
I
have
mean,
to wait for the vote, I
I'm gonna have
guess.
to
But
wait. Yeah, I have to wait before I know what I prefer. I mean, I can tell you it partly depends on whether I'm on Itch or Steam, actually, because
right. Do you think many
the
people
context
read?
makes a huge difference.
Do you think many people read the Steam reviews?
It doesn't matter if they read them; it matters how they look, and
Okay.
that's the problem. And it also relies on a certain assumption that I'm making about what safe means. I'm assuming the safe reviews are positive reviews, at least for the most part.
Polite,
Um,
indifferent,
Polite. I'm
don't
assuming they're
really tell you
indifferent at
anything
worst.
specific.
But I'm assuming that they are at least recommendations
Yeah,
and not unrecommendations
right.
for the most part.
Sure.
So if I assume that, then if I'm a Steam dev, I want safe because that's going to get me, because a million lukewarm reviews that are also positive will still show up as overwhelmingly positive on Steam if I
Yeah,
understand the
that's
numbers
true.
correctly.
Yeah. Yep.
On itch, however, which is where I presently exist, I can firmly say that I would be okay with getting mixed bag reviews. And here's why. They will give me more content, more actionable feedback to work with as a developer, and they might even be more fun to read than a million reviews that say, nice game, bro.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good answer. I just put the link in there in case you missed it earlier. Open it up in another tab on your device and make sure you save that. Kkarios has a ton of really fun games in there. Okay, resetting the poll and question number 7. We're coming close to the end. Would you rather maintain your game for 5 years with a tiny community, hashtag keeper, or have a viral hit with no follow-up funding, hashtag one hit, one, oh, actually it's just one hit, hashtag one hit? This is going to be interesting. What do they mean by no follow-up funding? Do they
I'm
mean
not
like because the tiny community is like crowdsourcing and kind of giving you money to make it, or
I would assume so, but I feel like the premise of the question is off. When they say no follow-up funding, do they mean viral hit once and then you never make a game that does anything worth noting? Or do they mean that you maintain the game and like I'm not sure how the
I
small
think
community
here's the
does anything.
question. I think here's the question: is maybe you work for a studio and the
Yeah.
studio chooses not to continue. They choose to defund that franchise.
Yeah. Okay. I mean that seems fine, I guess. I don't know. This is a honestly, I'm not even sure how to parse this one, but it looks like I'm going with keeper. And I would say I can justify that one pretty easily. Which is to say, one of my game dev heroes, low key, is a guy named Eldarin. He is also known as Rad Codex Games. If anybody has ever heard me talk about Horizon's Gate, Swissguard, I see you in chat. I know you've heard me talk about Horizon's Gate. I'm pretty sure I bought you Horizon's Gate. Play it. And Interceptor is also in chat. I bought a Horizons Gate for her husband, and they have also seen it and know about it. And I talk about how much fun it is to play. But that, yeah, you can push people off of boats in that game. It's great. And and the thing is, that developer has a Discord of not a huge size, but it's a very active community. People are very passionate in that place about modding Horizons Gate. Now, he kind of had it both ways because Horizons Gate itself is also relatively viral. The Fall of King's Vein less so, but it was such an impressive game, intriguing game to me that when I gave up kind of my gaming variety for the most part for Lent one year in 2024, I intentionally waited until Easter to play King's Vein. And you know what? Kind of worth it. I think it was a good choice to wait, and it felt good to play. So I would say one of my heroes did the keeper thing, at least kind of, although he kind of got it both ways because Horizon Gate was also his most viral hit.
Yeah.
At the same time, he has a small community of loyalists who have played every tactical RPG that he's made, basically.
Yeah.
Or who will play it once they get in there. I'm kind of one of them now. So like, there's something really special about that.
I'm proud of you. Okay, last one. Final call, round 8. Would you rather be known for a perfect jump arc, #smooth, or a perfect soundtrack, #sound? Vote fast so we can roast Danny on his bad answer. People call you Danny, I'm sorry.
They do not.
No?
My customers sometimes do. I work customer service on my day job, and I don't know how to respond when they do that.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's really not correct. Although usually my assumption is, hey, I talk fast enough, I can't really fault them for accidentally getting an extra.
Right. Do you feel like it's more childish?
I think
Danny
there's that.
boy?
I think when I was younger, I kind of got annoyed by that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I didn't even want to be called Dan for a really long time. And then I got to college and women started calling me Dan, and then I stopped caring magically.
Dang.
That's kind of how that happened.
Handsome Dan.
Sure.
That's Wayne's World.
I'll take it. Oh, okay. I'm so illiterate for all of film,
Schwing.
basically.
Okay, the poll ended. Sound. Defend it.
I can take Dana from my old boss, but I don't usually hear it from anybody else. Let's see. I can defend this one easily, actually, because it is very probable that in the game that I will be making in the future, that I will not be the person who did the soundtrack. There is no such thing necessarily as a perfect jump arc. I could chase that forever. However, if I am known for a perfect soundtrack, it means that the person who made the soundtrack, who I will probably have handpicked to work on that project and will believe in greatly as a composer accordingly, will then be known for perfect soundtrack.
Right.
So I would say I can easily defend this, and it was already my preferred answer going in, sound all the way, because I would just assume that glory go to somebody who is not me, who I believe in as a composer, as to me for something that at the very least would be luck, if it's even possible.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, this question is like left brain, right brain. Do you get a lot of satisfaction over doing something that a lot of people enjoy, or do you get satisfaction doing a process extremely well and satisfying? There's no wrong answer to it. Okay, man, that's the end of Poll Party. We've got to get on to the next segment here. So what we want to do is we want to say goodbye to our guest, Kkarios. You've been so fun, man. Can you tell me how to say your last name again?
It's Lauer, like I'm gonna say the anchor Matt Lauer, but like it's spelled like lower.
Yeah.
So like it's pronounced Lauer, spelled lower. You could call the spelling an Ellis Island casualty, but a relatively minor one because like whatever.
Okay, man. Let's get those links back in the chat one more time and just tell people once more where they can find you and what you're doing.
There is Kkarios.itch.io. That's my itch. It will link to everything basically that I've put up there. The Steam page, it goes to Puzzle Depot.
Yep.
That is a game that I was on soundtrack for recently. In my opinion, I am not the best composer on that soundtrack, but I am very happy with my work on it. And the game itself is bonkers and beautiful. And if you like puzzle games that are box pushers that also have some light RPG elements and dungeon crawly feel, definitely play it. It's amazing.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, man. Well, goodbye. Thank you for being here. I'm going to see you. I want you to go to the Discord, go to the chat all the way at the bottom for the post hangout show. Anybody who wants to hang out with me and Kairos in about 5 minutes, we're going to relaunch the stream and we're going to play Missing Cats for, I don't know, for a little while. And he's going to talk us through some of the concepts of the game. Okay, goodbye. And let's get on to the grind list. See ya. All right, the grind list. Wow, our guest had such a head of knowledge. Believe me, it's just like with all these guests. I wish I could spend at least another hour with them. We didn't even get around to talking about what these dev weekends or these dev months are called, where he's competing with other devs. I think I'm fascinated by it, especially the competitive side, but also the kind of the crunch time of quickly creating an awesome game and seeing how others like it. That's really neat. So thank you to Kairos for being here. That is our show. Now it's time for the grind list. If you've got prayers, you'd like to put them in chat for other folks to see. Or maybe you've got a game you're grinding through right now, put it in there. I'll tell you my grind list. First of all, prayer. Really want to get centered back on prayer. We've got a lot to do. We've got Thanksgiving coming up, got some cooking to do. I'm having my first turducken next week. We're going to grill it Cajun style, We're going to fry it Cajun style. That's a sin. And see how that turns out. But other than that, prayer, want to get to confession, and I want to get a few things straight in that side of my life, because I can feel the ship sinking. For games, not doing a lot. I'm doing a lot of editorial work. For some reason, my Fiverr account is blowing up and people just want my editing services. So I'm very busy with that. And I just signed a book with Catholic Answers. It's going to be a really fun book. I got 12 months to finish it. Actually, they gave me 24. I never take 24 months to write a book. So I'm going to be focusing a lot on that. In the meantime, tomorrow, the Kirby racing game. What's it called, K-Max? It comes out. I cannot wait for that. I'm going to wait probably a couple weeks to finish some work, and then I'm going to get that, and I'll be grinding on that. Otherwise, it's all Battlefield 6. Get your rifle. Let me know what time you're getting on, and let's play. In fact, let's play tomorrow night. Got a kids' football game, and then let's play. Guys, that's the grind list. If you are a donor, if you are a subscriber, you're going to be recognized in our end credits. If you're not there, you'll be added next week. I always update it every Wednesday. So guys, good night. Thank you. Don't go anywhere, because we're launching the stream immediately after this. And if you want to hang out, watch us play Missing Cats, go to the Discord right now. Guys, good night. And thank you for watching The Daily Grind, where gamers find grace. 8 p.m. next Thursday before we go on a Christmas break.